Hey, welcome to the Not Your Average Joe Show. Joe Soto here. We've got a very special guest today. He's my only three-peat guest, meaning this is my third time having Sir Andrew Locke on the show. I can't wait for what you guys have in store for what he's going to say about the Disney way. This is the Joe, Not Your Average Joe Show, and I can't wait to bring Andrew on. You guys, stay right with us. Here comes Andrew Locke.
This is the Not Your Average Joe Show, where each week we bring you sales, marketing, and mindset strategies you need to get to your next level. And now, here's your host, international business mentor, Joe Soto.
Andrew Locke's on the show. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Joe. Nice to see you.
we are back at it again.
Yeah.
Normally, you're on here sharing all kinds of incredible insights and marketing resources. For those of you who don't know, Andrew Locke is a master marketer. He's a copywriting genius. He's been at this for at least a year now.
At least.
A little backstory. I met Andrew back in 2012 and signed up for Andrew's mastermind. I think it was 2012, 2013, maybe 2013, maybe 2011. I don't know. It feels like forever ago now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned about Andrew right away was that he was an absolute expert on Walt Disney and everything Disney applied to business. And he is the author of Walt Disney's Way. He's the best-selling author of the Walt Disney's Way. And I know most of you have been to Disney, and I've also been to Disney numerous times with my family. And one of the things I learned very quickly in getting to know Andrew was I didn't know anything about Disney compared to what Andrew knows, and most importantly, about how we can apply the principles to business. This book lays out 17 strategies and really the secrets behind what makes Disney successful, but 17 secrets and strategies that you can use in your business. So it's for entrepreneurs, business owners, consultants, coaches, and anyone who's wanting to, have any type of success that would even resemble the likes of Disney. So he's really good at decoding what they do well. So I want to dive into that on today's show. I know you've got a special free treat for everybody as well at the end. So stick around. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Excited to share this. It's a fun topic to talk about always.
Yeah. I remember, we'll talk about a little bit later, but going on a special Disney trip with you and on a couple of them where you were able to show me and share with me behind the scenes stuff. That was really cool. Let's talk about how you first got interested in Disney. Like, where did this come from? Like,
it all started with this.
Oh, Reader's Digest. Wait, you have a copy of Reader's Digest?
Yeah, so this is not just any copy. This is the copy that changed my life, really. 1982, I was still at school. And I was, at the time in school, I was being bullied. So I wasn't very happy. And I went to the doctors for a checkup one day. And in the waiting room was this. And I started to read this article here about Walt Disney, and it just captivated my attention as a young teen. And I took it home with me, stayed up and read it. And I just really connected with Walt. I loved his story. He came from a very modest background, but a big dreamer. I had big dreams at the time. And it was from that moment, from reading this article, that I just became obsessed about Walt Disney. And ever since then, over the years, have studied everything about him and the company. And it's just been a fascinating journey that, I'm still learning, and there's so much to learn, and it's really fun. And, especially being able to study this stuff inside the theme parks, which I often do. And so I've been to all the theme parks around the world over 100 times.
Oh my gosh.
I'm always asked which is the best one. It's for me, definitely.
Which one's the best?
It's Shanghai, which is the newest one, because there's a lot of incredible new technology that they put in there that doesn't exist in any of the other parks. one of the rides is actually going to Magic Kingdom, which should be open in the next couple of years, and that is Tron, a roller coaster where you actually get on the bike from Tron, and it's just you and one other person next to you, and it feels like you're racing, and it's the bike is all lit up with neon. It's really, really cool. There's nothing else out there like it. It's a really special ride, and that was invented for Shanghai Disney, but it's coming to Disney World.
Awesome. In Orlando, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of Disney books out there. What
Yep.
inspired you to write Walt
This
Disney's Way?
particular one. Yeah, that's a good question. So what I found from reading all the books, actually, got a huge library of Disney books, is that all the books were either about basically his life story, you know, like a biography, or lessons for big corporations. And there's a lot of books around that. And Disney has their own training program called the Disney Institute for Large Corporations. And so I felt like there was a gap because there was nothing for people like you and me, entrepreneurs, business owners. And I felt like with what I'd studied over the decades, I had a lot to share about the lessons that I've learned and implemented in my own businesses. And so that's what I did. And it took me about 3 or 4 years of research and writing. It was a very long project, but enjoyable. And that's what culminated in this particular book. And it's I'm very thrilled that it's had such a profound effect for so many people and been extremely well received around the world. You know, I get letters every week from CEOs of companies that tell me that they're using it in their business. You know, that's such a great thing to, when you pour your heart and soul into a book, you know, to get those types of responses. So you know, it was definitely time well spent, and it's a very practical book. That's the biggest thing, you know, really, is that any business owner can pick it up and learn a lot of really marketing secrets that can help them in a very practical way. So you know, I didn't want it to be just a rehash of other types of Disney books. There is no other book like this on the Disney topic.
Well, I haven't read every Disney book out there, but I've read a handful, and this is definitely different. I like how to the point you get in all the chapters. It's very short and punchy. Every chapter, there's 17 secrets like I mentioned, and you rock through them. One of the mantras I have that I've taken from you in learning about how to apply Disney principles to business is making it easy for businesses to do business with you.
Yeah.
I always tell my students, you've got to make it really simple for your clients to be able to do business with you. And you talk about that in the book. Tell us a little bit about what you mean and what we can learn about from Disney.
Yeah.
How did you get that from Disney, and what can we learn from them?
Yeah, it's a great principle. In fact, you know, what I always say on this topic is, because, you know, the sort of the usual thing that people say, first of all, when I talk about learning from Disney is, you know, well, I'm not in the entertainment business, I'm not a theme park or whatever, but the fact is that every business has fundamental things in common with Disney. And so the idea is to look at the principles, the underlying principles, and adapt them, rather than just saying, what can I directly adopt from Disney, because that doesn't make sense. But if you say, what can I adapt from this principle, that's the key to learning from Disney. And so if we look at this principle that you raised just now of making it easy for customers to buy from you, there's so many great examples that Disney do, and we can learn from the principle. So first of all, if you think about the shops along Main Street when you enter a Disney park, it was actually Walt's idea not to have walls between the stores. So if you've been there, you know that you can walk from one store into another store
from inside the store. Yeah,
it's very clever. And there's, you know, I haven't seen that done anywhere else. Maybe there is someone that does it, but Walt was the one that came up with that idea. And the point is, it makes it easy to flow from one store into the other. You don't have to walk outside and hope that the customer or guest is going to walk into another store. They tend to just sort of drift along from one end to the other because they're already inside. So that was genius.
Yeah.
Another one that they just implemented in recent years was the magic bands, which is like a bracelet, which allows you to charge anything from your wrist.
Yeah.
And again, that makes it very easy for guests to buy because they set up their credit card when they first check into a hotel. And then when they're out and about in the parks or in the restaurants or in the shops, they just hold their wrist up to a card reader, or in this case, the magic band, as they call it, around their wrist to make a purchase. So rather than having to get in, their wallet or handbag to try and find a credit card or whatever, just hold your wrist up. It's another sort of, it overcomes another potential resistance point to making a purchase. So very, very smart.
Yeah.
Another one was Disney discovered that guests were not making purchases of large items in the parks because they just didn't want to carry those items around with them all day. So what they did was they said, and there's signs in the shops now that say, we'll store anything for you all day, and you can pick it up at the entrance to the park, or at the end of the day, they will have it delivered to your hotel room so that it's there by the time you get back, and which is genius. Again,
that's brilliant.
That's a real sort of wow factor to have that done. But again, they did that because they wanted to take away all resistance or excuses or reasons why someone may not buy. So again, the principle is make it easy for customers to buy from you. So let's translate that to our business. Do we do that? Some examples might be, do we make buyers or potential buyers register an account before they buy something? That's a barrier. That's a resistance point. Get rid of that. It's annoying. Have it as optional. Another one would be, do you only perhaps accept credit cards in your business, whereas some people want to pay via PayPal, or even more modern, some people want to pay via cryptocurrency, let's say. Do you only accept cash when some people want to pay via cards? Or perhaps do you have an arbitrary minimum purchase amount, which is annoying to customers? All of these things can be barriers. And I experienced that very issue this morning, actually, when I was out in the shops locally, where the business only accepted cash. And, it's a hassle. I didn't have cash. It's a hassle to go to the ATM. And, I've got cards in my wallet. It would have been easy for me to take out a card. And I didn't make the purchase because it was just too much hassle. So these are all, again, learning from Disney's lead, an example. Why make it difficult for people to buy from you? And so many businesses do this almost unwittingly because they haven't given thought to, am I making it difficult for customers to buy? Am I putting up some barriers of resistance? And there's a lot more, than we've discussed. But again, the principle is the most important thing. Are we making it easy for customers to buy? And Disney definitely sets the lead and a good example for us in doing that.
So in the client service business, I had a client who, in the fee they're paying was in excess of $5,000, and our typical rule of thumb is if it's over $5,000, we want ACH transfer, wire transfer. Or they can mail a check, making it easy. And every once in a while somebody will. It's very rare. But in this case, this client wanted to use their card because they knew they could get the points. They really wanted to use their card for whatever reason, for leveraging or whatever, and were willing to pay the extra fees to offset because they knew that our rule or our policy, we didn't call it a policy, or a reason for doing that, was because the fees go way up when it starts to get over,
extra fees,
really crazy. You're talking a few $100s, and they were happy to cover that. So so the point is, sometimes the customer will pay a little more for you to make it easier for them to do business with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good thing to keep in mind. I'm very frustrated with the airlines at the moment because
you're the only one.
What's that?
You're the only one.
Oh yeah, right. But specifically, well, that's been the case for years, but specifically, some airlines have gone completely cashless, and some airlines have adopted an only cash. So it's, you can't possibly keep track with which one's which. And there is definitely that inconvenience factor of, I'm talking about onboard purchases.
Right.
That factor of, if they only take cash and you don't have cash, and you want a drink or meal or whatever, it's frustrating. And it's just, to me, it's just silly to do that when it's not difficult to offer, alternatives. And obviously they're doing that for their own convenience, which is never a good thing in business. It's fine to think about these things and say, well, what are the pros and cons of making a particular decision? But where that decision directly impacts the customer's potential ability to give you money, that's a very, very serious implication. To basically say we're going to turn away a cross section of our customers from paying us. Why would you do that? And unless there's a really good reason.
Agreed. All right. One of the other things you talk about in the book is invention versus innovation, and I'd love to hear what the difference is and what we can learn from Disney in this respect.
That's an interesting topic too. This is chapter 9, and this is hi Anthony. It's an interesting one because it's very commonly confused, and I think it is essential to understand the difference. So invention is coming up with something that's completely new, that doesn't exist anywhere. It doesn't relate to anything that's already existing. And, so we talk about inventors coming up with an invention.
Yeah.
On the other hand, innovation is all about building on top of something that someone has already done with the purpose of making it better. So the key thing to understand, excuse me, hope I make it, is the key thing to understand with this is that inventors tend to be the ones who are the pioneers with the arrows in their backs. Because invention is hard.
That's right.
If you think about, for example, who invented the MP3 player? Not Apple, as many people would think.
That's right.
They actually innovated it.
Same with the tablet.
They put
the
it on the
iPad
map.
was
Exactly.
the first.
Yeah. So it wasn't Apple that actually made those inventions. They were innovations. They saw what was out in the marketplace already, and they said, we can make this better. And it was actually the same with Walt. And this is something very few people know, actually. Walt did not invent the theme park. It actually already existed. Do you know, or do you remember where in the world it existed?
No, I can't remember.
So this
I
is
think
really
you shared this with us. You shared this with us on our trip, but I forget.
Yeah, Walt went on vacation with his wife Lillian in the 1940s, I think it was specifically, and he went to Denmark. And in Copenhagen, there is a theme park there called Tivoli Gardens, which opened in the early 1800s, believe it or not. And Walt was so fascinated with this theme park called Tivoli Gardens that he got out his notebook and he was furiously writing notes about every aspect, the beautiful gardens, the lighting, the rides, the cleanliness, all these notes that he made. And that became the blueprint for Disneyland. So Walt didn't invent the idea of a theme park. He just made it better from what he saw and what inspired him, which was Tivoli Gardens. And interestingly, if you go to Tivoli Gardens, which is still open today, it's very small by comparison to Disneyland. It's I don't know, probably maybe a quarter of the size, something like that. But many Americans that go to Tivoli Gardens, they say, "Oh, this is, this is exactly like Disneyland." And of course, they've got it the wrong way around because it was Walt.
Disney
They
is
don't
just
know
like
that it was
them.
Walt that came up with Disneyland by seeing Tivoli Gardens. But the point is, you 100% see the inspiration because of the things that I mentioned. The beautiful surroundings, cleanliness, ride shows and attractions that are all themed, the beautiful lighting at night, all of those things Walt directly took from Tivoli, but just innovated on top of it and said, how can I take what they've done but make it a lot better? So he made it bigger. He made it, he
Just
kind
a
of
little.
supersized it, and the rest is history. So if you look at the contrast of invention, that is actually a very dangerous thing to go down, the route, that path to go down, because the fact is it takes enormous time and effort to invent something new.
Yeah.
But
And money.
anything can be innovated or made better, anything. And that's where the real opportunity lies for entrepreneurs, is to say, what they've got here is really cool, but ding, light bulb, I can make that better.
Yeah, and you just answered Ray's question about what would be more challenging, being the inventor or the innovator. Most certainly being the inventor.
Definitely inventor, yeah. And there is, of course, inventors that have done well, have done extremely well, but the fact is they're few and far between compared to the number of people that are trying to invent things. Whereas, like I said, the hard part is inventing it. But once something's been invented, anyone can, with enough thought, with enough research and brain power. Hi, Jamie. Nice to see you here. Can come up with ways to innovate on something and say, I can make this better.
That's right. That's right. And
Yeah,
Joaquin's in
very true.
Norway. He's not
Nothing's
too
been
far.
made perfect yet. Very true. It's always room for innovation.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that in your book. You talk about partnerships and premium pricing. Was one of my favorite chapters. The languaging of Disney and why that matters, also really cool. But it's easy to kind of look at Disney and think that they've done everything right. But you talk about the fact that they've also made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
Maybe give us some examples of some of the mistakes Disney's made that we could learn from.
Yeah, one of the advantages of me not being on the Disney payroll, as many other authors have been, is that I can talk openly about the mistakes.
Yeah.
Without them sort of covering it up, which they do like to do, because
spill the beans. What's the mistake?
The brand is always kind of squeaky clean. So yeah, I'll give you a few examples. So first, and these are like real kind of clangers. They're like, whoa, that's a huge blunder. So the first one is in the mid 80s. They realized, this was Michael Eisner's tenure. He was fairly new as the CEO. They realized that they had lost literally billions of dollars by not having hotels at Disney World. Well, I say not having hotels. They actually had two. They had two hotels. They had the Contemporary Resort and they had the Polynesian Resort, which opened with the Magic Kingdom. And so they were, because they did research, and they found that they looked at the number of people that were staying nearby with the purpose of going to the Disney parks.
Yeah.
And this is when they realized, my goodness, we have lost countless billions of dollars. So he immediately set in motion plans to make resorts and make them, with sort of fun architectural styles and so on. And after the first few, they kept on going, and they have never stopped.
Yeah.
And so today, do you know how many resorts there are at Disney World?
How many?
34.
Oh my
So
God.
they went
at Disney World, just Disney World.
Just Disney World in Florida, yeah. They went from 2 in the 1980s to now 34 with more than 30,000 hotel rooms. And they haven't stopped.
34 resorts,
hotels,
over 30,000 hotels. Yeah. So think about the literally billions of dollars that they've made since correcting that
Oh,
mistake.
yeah. And interestingly,
So
too.
the lesson is we can look at our business and say, where else could we be making money? And I know one of the
Absolutely.
key things we've all learned from people like Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham is that a lot of times the money that can come to you is most easily found in your existing customer base.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, by offering something more premium. And that's what they've done in the last 3 years or so. So previously, their top tier resort was the Grand Floridian, which is near Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
And it was always sold out. Like literally 99% of the time sold out, right? Which is unheard of in the hotel industry. Normally about 60% to 70% occupancy is normal. So that told them we haven't reached the limit of what people are willing to pay. And as you know, Disney resorts are very expensive.
Yeah.
So that what they did was, again, they looked around the world and they looked at what are the most expensive resorts around the world and what's the most popular. And they looked at these Bora Bora style bungalows. You've probably seen them on stilts.
Yeah.
And so they made some of those on the lagoon directly facing Magic Kingdom with like the perfect view of the fireworks display at night. And those go for a minimum price of over $2,000 a night.
Wow.
Right.
And
So to your point, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah. And that was really just in the last 3 years that they innovated and added that.
Yep. So another example of making mistakes. And again, this is like a lot of people don't realize this one, other than maybe people that have lived around California, in Orange County in California for many years. So get this, at Disneyland in California, which was the original theme park, which Walt directly designed and opened in 1959, from 1959 until 1985, Disneyland was closed every Monday and Tuesday in the year round, apart from the summer. And they were using it that time to perform maintenance. And they just felt like, we don't think there's enough
Those
demand.
are slow days. Yeah.
The slower days, we don't think there's enough demand. They'd never even tried it, but that was the assumption. But of course, they had lost hundreds of millions in revenue. And so that raises the question for us, what old established practices are we still doing in our business that we haven't challenged ourselves to look at in years? And every business has these things, the things that we just do it because that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Every Monday and Tuesday, 2 days.
For not just for a little while. They were doing that for years.
Until 1985. And what they realized was, particularly over the decades, Disneyland had become much more popular with international guests. And so by 1985, they realized, well, hang on a minute, a huge number of guests are coming from outside of the States, which means that it doesn't matter. They're here on holiday. They're here on vacation. It doesn't matter what day of the week we open the doors. They're going to come. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
In fact, interestingly, Monday became the most popular day, and it still is. Do you know why?
It's still the most popular day.
Do you know why?
No.
It's fascinating. This was real.
I mean, I can make a bunch of guesses, but I'd rather you just tell us.
The reason is most guests travel to the area on the weekend, and they start their visit on a Monday.
Because they take the week off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Wow.
So third mistake I'll mention to you, which was another fascinating one, and again, not many people know about it because it's more of an insider one. This one was for all of Michael Eisner's good things that he implemented, and he did a lot of good. He was also not as smart as he liked to think he was. He was certainly not, this genius, that I think he thinks he was. He certainly did a lot of good. But for years, Michael Eisner insisted and was really kind of going at this with full enthusiasm for the company to create a Disney-themed car. This was back in the late 80s. And now he felt like very strongly that it would be a no-brainer purchase. It would be extremely popular, and probably it would have been. But here's what happened. They went along the process. They did designs, and they basically designed a Disney car, because he was so insistent that they do this. But when they put it out to focus groups, this was so fascinating. Young girls were really enthusiastic about it, especially kind of princess themed and so on. And they've said they were all for it. They said, this is amazing. We can't wait. Young boys said they did not think it was a good idea. They didn't think it would be cool at all. And they were definitely sort of against it. But the most shocking discovery, and this was something that no one inside of Disney had thought of, was the parents' feedback, which said, what's the feedback going to be, or the perception of Disney, when the inevitable happens around the world, that there's car crashes in Disney cars and people die.
Yeah.
And of course, Disney, that doesn't tie in at all with the Disney brand.
Right.
Their number one overriding cultural principle within the company, at number one, is safety. And so when they had that feedback,
it would have to be an armored vehicle.
Yeah, they realized what the implication was of the perception of the Disney brand. They immediately abandoned that project. And even Eisner was forced to say, yeah, they're right. No one had ever thought of that. I never thought of that. You know?
Yeah. If that's your number one operating core principle and core value.
Yeah.
And you putting people in a car that could and will end up crashing at some point is just the inevitable. Amazing.
So it shows, that was a good.
But what an expensive project to get to
goodness.
that ending conclusion. They're designing cars and vehicles. They're taking it that far before they learn that.
Yeah. So again, the trap, I suppose, that it's easy for any of us to fall into is that, we know best. We know what people want. And sometimes, we're not the customer. And sometimes they give us very good feedback about what they want and what they don't want. And it's important to listen, very important to listen. So how often do we survey our customers to ask them questions about what we're providing? Are we missing something? Is there something that you want more of? Is there something that you want less of? We can all benefit from doing regular surveys of our customers. And often the results are very surprising.
Yeah.
Usually they are surprising.
I love this comment by Doug, to your point about Disney being used to being closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. Disney uses our ladders. And the salespeople had to make presentations at 1 a.m. because that's when the maintenance guys were working.
Oh, funny. Yeah. So a lot happens even today. It's very true, Doug, that most of the maintenance is done at night. And so it's a 24-hour operation, but that's still a lot cheaper than closing the park for 2 days. That's for sure.
How has Disney innovated over the last difficult 20 months or so?
Yeah, it's been tough for sure, because they certainly didn't expect it to be closed for so long. Disneyland in California and California Adventure in California were closed for over a year. Literally, the doors were shut. It was better in Florida, and of course, this is all down to local regulations and so on. But the biggest thing that they've had to do is create methods and systems to reassure guests that they are safe. So, for example, they've put plastic barriers between where people line up, so that to enable a practical way of enable social distancing. They've had to change the way that a lot of the restaurants work, change the capacities, change the timing. They went to a excuse me. They went to an online ordering system so that to sort of control the flow and not have so many people sort of together. So a lot of practical changes, and
that's probably a good thing.
In terms of the financial implication, which of course they did lose a lot of money. The biggest change that they've implemented, which it admittedly has not gone down well overall with the community, is that they have implemented a charge effectively for what was the Fast Pass. They scrapped the name Fast Pass, and they've brought in a new name called Lightning Lane, which is now a paid service by something called the Disney Genie Plus system. And it's a little bit complicated, actually. In my opinion, it's too complicated. And I think they have also lost a lot of goodwill from charging now for what was fast passes, because in the past they've said that's one of the Disney differences, is that whereas Universal Studios and so on were charging for to jump the line as of about 10 years ago, they said we won't do that. But with the change in the pandemic, it is something that they've gone to, and they've started it this month actually with $15 upcharge per day per person, but already they said that that's going to be increased. Yeah. So, and of course they also have put the ticket prices up too, which is something they do twice a year by clockwork. It's a given now that the prices will go up twice a year and at vastly increased rates, more than inflation. But the demand hasn't so far has not.
If anything, people are willing to pay a little more just so they can get out now.
Yeah, and that's
now they're set free.
That's what I've observed, is that despite the severity of the pandemic, the demand for attending Disney parks has, when they became open again, the demand just absolutely has gone through the roof, and it's even surprised Disney. They hoped that would happen, but it's exceeded everyone's expectations. It's amazing, actually.
I want to answer a couple of people's questions in the comments. Sure. But before we do, you've got a free training that you're going to be doing. I can't wait to attend it.
Yeah, this is obviously it's a popular topic. It's something that it's fun to talk about, and there's so many lessons, hundreds to learn. So what I've done is at Joe's request,
free, yeah,
I've put together a live presentation which we're going to do next Thursday with completely different lessons to anything we've talked about in this training today, and you can register for that for free at thedisneytraining.com. And in full disclosure, I'm going to make an offer at the end of that training next Thursday to come with me in December to Walt Disney World, and that's something I do a couple of times a year. I've done it for 15 years with full endorsement from Disney, and it's basically a behind the scenes adventure in a small group of entrepreneurs where I directly translate the principles to your business. So I look at your business before we go, and I do tours behind the scenes at the Disney parks, and it's well, Joe can speak to it in a moment, but it's fascinating, it's fun. And so if you want a sneak peek at that, you can go today to magicalmarketingexperience.com to find out a bit more. But as is on the screen now, to register for the training for free, and it's a really good one. There's, I think, 9 more lessons we're going to talk about that are completely different to what we talked about today. thedisneytraining.com to reserve your place. And it is limited. We're doing it on Zoom. So there is literally only 100 spots. So there is a need to register in advance.
Awesome. Well, I have been to the Magical Marketing Experience. Lenee and I, my wife and I, did it together when we were part of your mastermind.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you and I teamed up in a mastermind a couple of years ago, and we did it pre-COVID. I saw Carrie was on here. I think she was there with us as well. Her and her son, and that was incredible. Both times I've done it, it's been an unbelievable experience to learn the behind the scenes secrets. And this is like a different level of behind the scenes that you get from that. The training is free. So at the very least, get yourself to his next Thursday's training, and you're doing it live on Zoom. I'll be there, and really appreciate you taking the time here. Let's go real quick to a couple of these comments. I thought this was an interesting one from Kellen, who said, the revamp of Vegas, when they built the resorts there in Vegas, was this influenced by the Disney model?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you picked up.
And I know you've lived in Vegas. You can speak a lot to
this. So one of the really smart things that Eisner did that we take for granted today, but it certainly at the time was very, very smart decision, was when he said, we need new hotels and resorts because they only had 2. The designers came back with some, they just looked like box hotels basically. And Eisner immediately picked up on the fact that those designs didn't tie in with what Disney stands for, which is fun, right? Yeah. You go to Disney to have fun. And so he said, let's not be cheap here. Let's hire the best designers that we can possibly find around the world, like famous designers, and give them the main direction that these buildings need to make people smile. They need to be fun. They need to be unlike anything that people have ever seen before in their lives. And that was really smart of him to do that, because that is part of, what makes Disney special. It is part of why people stay in a Disney resort, because they are fun. They are completely unique. They're all completely different themes. And of course, designers in Vegas, when they're designing something new, they do look around the world and they do look at what's popular and successful. And of course, part of that is looking at Disney, and that absolutely has influenced these designs in Vegas. So, the big trend right now is, and there was a massive opening of a Singaporean-owned resort called Resorts World in Vegas, where the entire front of the hotel is one big LED screen, and you can see it from the other side of Vegas. It's incredible. And they're also building now an amphitheater in Vegas. Hey Ken, nice to see you. They're building an amphitheater in Vegas, it's a dome, where the entire dome is a screen. And this building is, you can see it going up now in Vegas. There's nothing else like it in the world. And even right now, when you just see the size of this dome, it's jaw-dropping, and you can see it from the other side of Vegas. So when this thing's lit up at night, it's going to be magnificent. Incredible, completely unique. So Eisner was very, very smart in making that, that connection and realization with the brand. And that was interesting that you picked up on that the tie-in with Vegas. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, close, Ken. Yeah. Salt Lake City is
Salt Lake City is the accent.
I'm a bit of a nomad at the moment.
Andrew is one of the most well-traveled people I've ever met. And every time I talk to him, he's either in a different place, living in a different place, or traveling to a different place.
I'll settle down eventually.
I'm living vicariously through his travels. So Walt Disney's Way, great book. But this training you're going to do, I know, is a deep dive into some of the key 7 principles you're taking from it. I can't wait. You're doing it live on Zoom. If you're watching, listening to this, go to thedisneyway.com and get registered for it.
Training.
I'm sorry, thedisneytraining.com. Gosh, thedisneytraining.com. Just like it sounds. This shouldn't be that difficult.
Okay.
I'm making it.
And
I'm making it easy for people to get registered. Am I? Thedisneytraining.com.
Yeah, this is a new presentation. I've got slides to illustrate all the points, so you sort of as if you'll get to walk around the parks a little bit, and we'll go deep into each point. So it will be very, very practical for you, and hopefully fun too.
Awesome. Andrew, can I have you back again for a 4th time sometime?
I would love to be
I would love it. You know what? We should do one on travel. I know you got the Travel Pro show. You're doing some incredible things around travel hacks.
Yeah.
I think people would love, these are entrepreneurs who travel. We're getting ready to travel more. The world's opening back up. And you've got some amazing things on that. There's your cup. Yep. You're one of the more diverse marketers I've met. And I know the shows we've done in the past with the marketing resources have been a big hit. But this show also really valuable. Thank you for sharing your insight today.
Yeah, I think it is important, when you do these types of interviews to deliver a lot of value, and hopefully that's given you some food for thought if you're watching today. And it is a fun topic to think about. And Walt really was a genius. He led the field in that space, but whatever business we're in, there is so much to learn from what he discovered. And, he was so ahead of his time, really, to be honest, in terms of the things that he put in place. And he, interestingly, too, he was not motivated by money. A lot of people don't know that either. He realized that, he was certainly a businessman and he wanted to make money, but that wasn't his major motivation. I think that's a really interesting underlying point to what he did. Was fundamentally he loved what he was doing and wanted to help people, wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And it showed, it really showed. And I think if anything, Disney has become a little bit, off track in terms of the, obviously they're a huge corporation these days and they have responsibility to the shareholders. But I think in some ways, Walt would be unhappy with the extremes of some of the things that they've done. But, as we can make fault with any company. The fact is they are one of the most admired companies in the world, and they're one of the most profitable companies in the world. And that's a very unique combination.
The what you broke down today, I know what you'll break down in the training, which I'm looking forward to, because I know it's going to be a deeper dive into some of the principles in the book.
Yeah.
Really important for people to be able to model and learn from this. And I think you are filling a gap. How can entrepreneurs, small business owners, small business professionals leverage these strategies in their own business and in real ways, real applicable, tactical ways? And I think that's the genius behind the work that you're doing, and certainly appreciate you. Jamie's going to Disney in a couple of weeks, he says.
Good.
To experience the happiest place on earth. It is awesome. I can't wait to get back as well. Andrew, thanks again. And everybody, I'll see you guys next week on the Not Your Average Joe Show. I've got the most Not Your Average Joe person, Andrew, here. And I appreciate you guys being here to listen to him and share in his insights. And I hope you go to thedisneytraining.com and get registered for his live presentation next week. See you, everyone.
Thanks.
Tune in next week for the Not Your Average Joe Show with international business mentor Joe Soto.